Chapter 9 is about sustaining biodiversity and saving ecosystems. The core case study is on Costa Rica. Costa Rica is a global conservation leader. Despite natural capital degradation, Costa Rica remains an oasis of biodiversity. It is home to an amazing variety of wildlife, especially birds. As you read through this core case study, think about what two factors help protect Costa Rica's biodiversity, and what has the government done to improve the sustainability of forest in the region. Section 9.1. What are the major threats to forest ecosystems? Ecosystem services provided by forests go beyond the mere value of raw materials. Forests are most threatened by unsustainable cutting and burning of vegetation, and by the effects of climate change. Forests provide important economic and ecosystem services. They purify air and water. They provide habitat for about 2/3 of the Earth's terrestrial species. They are home to more than 300 million people, and they provide sustenance for many people who live in extreme poverty. They provide health benefits, for example, drugs. Forests vary in age and composition. They are categorized based on their age and structure. Old-growth forests are uncut or regenerated forests not seriously disturbed by human activity or natural disasters for over 200 years. Take a look at Figure 9.3. It shows an example of an old-growth forest. Second-growth forests result from secondary ecological succession after the primary forests have been destroyed. Tree plantations are managed farms growing only one or two species. Oil palm tree plantations are great examples of tree plantations. There are several ways to harvest trees. Selective cutting. Intermediate aged or mature trees are cut singly or in small groups. Clear cutting. All trees are removed from a geographic area. This is the most efficient and least costly, but it harms ecosystems. And strip cutting. Trees are removed in sections parallel to a feature, such as a road. Two types of fires can affect ecosystems. Surface fires usually burn only undergrowth and leaf litter on the forest floor. They burn away flammable material, free valuable nutrients, release seeds and stimulate germination, and help control the presence of destructive insects and tree diseases. Crown fires are extremely hot fires that leap from treetop to treetop. They destroy most vegetation, kill wildlife, increase topsoil erosion, and damage buildings and homes. Take a look at the photo on your screen. It's an example of a crown fire. Deforestation is a term that references the removal of large areas of forest for human use. We have eliminated almost half of the Earth's old-growth forest, and if current deforestation rates continue, 40% of the world's remaining intact forest will be logged or converted. This leads to severe erosion and loss of topsoil. At least one-half of mature tropical forests have been lost since 1950. Between 2000 and 2014, approximately 50 soccer fields of tropical forests were lost every minute. Remember, these forests are home to at least one-half of the world's known species. Rapid deforestation is taking place in Africa, Southeast Asia, and South America. Causes of tropical deforestation include pressures from population growth, government subsidies for large-scale logging and ranching, and there are direct causes that vary according to geography. For example, in South America, deforestation is occurring for cattle grazing and cropland. In Indonesia and Southeast Asia, deforestation is occurring for oil palm plantations, and in Africa, deforestation is mostly occurring for firewood and farming. So how can we manage and sustain forest? Well, it might best be accomplished by emphasizing the economic value of ecosystem services, removing government subsidies that favor deforestation, and protecting old growth forests by harvesting trees no faster than they can be regrown, and by planting new forests. The strategies for reducing fire-related harm include using prescribed burns to remove small trees and underbrush in high-risk areas, and allowing fires on public land to burn as long as they do not threaten human life or structures, and to eliminate the use of wood shingles and siding in construction. There are several ways to reduce tropical deforestation. We can protect the most diverse and endangered areas. We can provide sustainability education. We can subsidize sustainable forest use. We can encourage debt for nature swaps. We can buy only wood and wood products certified sustainable. And we can reduce poverty and slow population growth. Section 9.3 is all about how can we manage and sustain grasslands. Well, grassland productivity can be sustained and improved by controlling the abundance and distribution of grazing livestock and by restoring degraded rangeland. After forests, grasslands are the most widely used ecosystem. When we look at overgrazing, it harms grass roots, reduces grass cover, exposes topsoil to erosion, it compacts the soil, it lowers its capacity to hold water, and it encourages the invasion of rangeland species that cattle will not eat. Take a look at figure 9.15. To the left of the fence is overgrazed rangeland. The land to the right of the fence is lightly grazed. So how can we manage rangelands more sustainably? Well, we can control the number of grazing animals in an area and limit grazing time. We can use rotational grazing. We can fence off damaged, degraded areas. We can use herbicides, mechanical removal, or controlled burning to suppress invader species. And we can permit short-term trampling by livestock that destroy the root systems of bioinvaders. So how can we sustain terrestrial biodiversity? By establishing and protecting wilderness areas, parks, and nature preserves, we can sustain biological diversity. By identifying and protecting biodiversity hotspots, we can help sustain terrestrial biodiversity and protect ecosystem services. Specific strategies include protecting species from extinction, establishing protected wilderness areas, parks, and nature reserves, identifying and protecting biodiversity hotspots, avoiding the destruction of forest and grasslands, and rehabilitating and partially restoring damaged ecosystems. So we can establish wilderness areas, and wilderness is defined as areas undisturbed by humans and protected by federal law. The Wilderness Act passed in 1964, and it has protected undeveloped public land since then. Areas of protected land grew 12-fold. Only 5% of all U.S. land is protected as wilderness, with more than 54% of it in Alaska. Our national parks face many environmental threats. Many are too small to maintain large animal species. Many suffer from bioinvaders, and some are so popular that the number of visitors degrades the very features that made them attractive in the first place. Internationally, many are used illegally for firewood, hunting, poaching, logging, and mining. The size and design of a reserve is important. Habitat corridors are corridors between isolated reserves. They allow for vertebrate migration and also allow the movement of fire, disease, pest, and invasive species. Beneficial impacts to reserves can be increased by establishing buffer zones. Strict protection of a reserve's inner core. Costa Rica has created several mega reserves. Figure 9.19 on your screen demonstrates the green areas are protected natural parklands and yellow areas are surrounding buffer zones. So let's talk about the ecosystem approach for sustaining terrestrial biodiversity. It entails inventory of all of the species found in a terrestrial ecosystem, along with the ecosystem services that it provides. It identifies threatened terrestrial ecosystems with the potential for recovery, and then it protects the most threatened ecosystems and species. It restores those degraded ecosystems, and it makes development biodiversity friendly. It provides financial incentives to protect endangered ecosystems. Protecting global biodiversity hotspots is an urgent priority. We should consider taking emergency measures to rapidly protect terrestrial biodiversity hotspots. These areas cover little more than 2% of the Earth's surface, but are estimated to contain most of the world's flowering plants and terrestrial vertebrates. Only about 5% of hotspot areas are currently protected with government funding and law enforcement. Let me know if you have any questions.